Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Right.
Thanks.
All right, let's start that again. So, welcome everyone. My name is Jordan.
Hello, Shosh.
Está en inglés, mira. Pero qué oso, Natalia. ¿Sabes por qué? Porque yo lo tenía volteado.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And I am coming to you today from Golden, Colorado in the United States. I'm a PhD student who studies, among other things, voice interfaces like Alexa and Google Assistant, as well as something called data sonification, which is making graphs using sound so that you can actually listen to data with your ears. I'm also a former data journalist. I used to cover energy issues for radio and TV. And I used to work as a community data consultant. And there I really found that conversations are super powerful ways to help people understand data and to connect with each other, which is how I got interested in voice assistants, because I'm curious at how we can scale a conversation to reach more people. And so I'm excited that all of you are here today from all around the world to join me in this workshop. So real quick, just kind of a flow of what we're going to get to today. So we have about 90 minutes, and our goals for today are to get some hands-on experience designing voice interactions from a human-centered point of view. So we're going to be spending most of our time on hands-on activities, which is going to be kind of an experiment doing this over Zoom, and we'll be using breakout rooms. So you'll be doing some individual activities, and then you'll go to breakout rooms to discuss what you did. Before that, though, I'll start by giving you a short interview of what the news on voice assistant landscape is like now, and then we'll launch into the design activities. I'll try to have a short break in the middle, just to give you a chance to take a breather. And we're going to then return to design activities and then finish with a demo on how to use a prototyping tool called Voice Flow, which is free and lets you build and deploy to both Alexa and Google Assistant platforms. So in terms of the mechanics of the workshop, the way that I've set it up is that all of the design activities are in a Google slide deck that you can use as a template to then modify and edit and do your own work there. So here's the link for the slide template. And I'm gonna paste that into the chat as well. Give me 1 second to do that. So there's the link.
I can do it. Okay, perfect.
Oh, cool. So that link is view only, but if you make a copy for yourself, then you'll be able to edit it. So to make a copy, go up to File and then make a copy and then entire presentation. And then once you've done that, you should have a version that you can actually edit and tweak and use to do the activities. Again, though, if you prefer to do these on just like pen and paper, you can just follow along and write it down in your notebook, and you'll be able to participate just fine if you prefer. So I'll give you just a couple seconds to make sure that you can get the slides. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat and we'll try to figure out, we'll try to troubleshoot with you. Okay, so to get warmed up and to just figure out how this whole breakout room thing will work, I have a short icebreaker activity for us to do to get to know each other. Hopefully Guillermo is putting the breakout rooms together, and I'll tell you what you'll be doing before I send you there. So I've got a couple of questions that I'd like you to discuss in your breakout room. So the first is just where are you physically located at this moment? So as I said, I'm in Golden, Colorado in the United States. Second, what's the weirdest interaction you've ever had with a voice assistant? So mine is that because I study them, I actually have some smart speakers here in my home office. And often when I'm on a video chat and I'm referring to Alexa or to Google Assistant, they kind of wake up and then they butt into the conversation and start talking. So that's why I unplugged mine today so that they wouldn't do that as I'm talking to you. So that's my weird voice interaction. And then the third question I'd like you to share with each other is think about a person that you really enjoy having conversations with, and just think like, what about that person makes them fun to have conversations with? So I think about a former colleague of mine who I also collaborate on making a podcast with, and he's really fun to talk to because he always like takes things in interesting tangents in weird directions that take us to new places. So that's why he's fun to have a conversation with. So those are the three questions, and I'm gonna paste that into the chat as well so that you can actually see the questions when you go into the breakout room. And we'll take just a couple minutes. I think maybe 3 minutes should be good to do that. So I think, are we set up to send people?
Yeah, so let me just explain what is a breakout room for si anybody didn't know. Los vamos a separar ahora. Yo voy a hacer clic en un botón, van a ir y los va a dividir random en 5 habitaciones y ahí van a poder tener esta conversación que está pidiendo Jordan y después los vamos a volver a traer nosotros directamente. O sea, ustedes no tienen que hacer nada, van a ser divididos y van a volver a ser convocados a esta reunión.
Cool. So I will see you all in about 3 minutes.
Yep. O sea, Adrián, si te está rechazando, ¿te mando a otra o no te está sumando por alguna razón en especial? Hello, Jordan.
Hey, I was popping in to see how much time they're taking. So the group I was in, they're still on their second question. So
Okay, I have to move some of them. Some of them is still in no place. So okay, just let me know when I have the button to close all rooms. So whenever you want, there was a girl, there was alone in one room. I don't know what they make that thing, but she was alone. And they could talk?
Yes, yes.
Okay, because when I entered that room, that person wasn't, I saw the microphone, but I didn't listen. So I don't know if there was a problem. So, okay.
I think we can bring them back now.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and do that.
Okay, yeah, because it gave them 1 minute. So just to take in account if we want to make another breakout rooms, that when you give me that order, we have to wait 60 seconds, right? So,
1 minute
yeah.
countdown. Yeah.
So in 30 seconds, they will come back.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for helping me through this. This is a little bit of an experiment, so.
Yeah, it's for us too. So thank you for being open to test.
Yeah, of course. Oh, looks like people are starting to come back. Let's see if you.
Yeah, it's because maybe it's in 10 seconds, it will close every room.
Okay.
So maybe they are just leaving the place.
Cool.
And it's now, they will return here.
Okay, so welcome back. And then do I have to re-share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so let me do that. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. I hope you had fun getting to know each other. And if you feel comfortable, feel free to put your answers also in the chat so that you can see what people in other breakout rooms were talking about, and we can just have a little bit more conversation going on there. So now, before we get into some of the hands-on activities, I'm going to do a real brief introduction into voice assistants and what makes them exciting, but then also some of the challenges that they present. So, so most of us, if we've been exposed to voice assistants, it's probably either through smart speakers or through our phones, which maybe have an enabled assistant like Google Assistant or Siri. But one of the exciting things that's happening is there's actually now a whole bunch of wearable devices that are activated with voice. So Amazon has released a smart ring, which is kind of an interesting concept. You can wear it on your finger. There's the Apple Watch. There's earbuds with voice-enabled technology. There's even appliances, right? You can get a voice-enabled refrigerator or toilet, which I think is a little bit extreme. But I bring these up not because everyone has them yet. They're still sort of on the forefront, early adopter technology. But I bring this up because it kind of points to the direction that things are going in, which is that voice is really all around us. And I find that exciting because it lets us interact with information in new settings. And it lets us interact with information so we're not like staring at our screens and sort of taken out of the world, but we're more kind of embedded in our environment. And I think that's pretty exciting. I'm also excited about the fact that with voice, people can respond in the moment. So as soon as you think of something, you can ask your voice assistant about it rather than having to remember like, oh, I need to go look up that article later when I'm at home and I'm in front of my computer. So it really gives us this in the moment capability. Also, when people are interacting with voice assistants, they're operating in kind of a conversational mindset, which is really engaging our brains in a different way and in a more social way. So there's a lot to be excited about. But at the same time, there's the realities of voice technologies, which is that a lot of them are very frustrating, and the interactions we have are quite disappointing, and they leave a lot to be desired. Right, so some of the problems are that it's hard for people to figure out what to do with them. And some research has shown that people actually settle into known patterns pretty quickly. So once they figure out like the 2 or 3 things that they can do, that's all that they do. And so they stop exploring. There's also a lot of awkward experiences when we shovel content from one medium to another. So I've had experiences where I'll ask Alexa a question and she'll start like reading off the text of a Wikipedia page, which is really not the greatest experience. So there is a lot of untapped potential, and I think we can definitely work to make these better. So what are people using their smart speakers and voice-enabled devices for? So by far and away, the biggest thing people use them for is to play music. But what I think is promising and exciting is kind of the next biggest category is actually information, which includes news, and then also things like weather and finance information. And that actually accounts for about 1/5 of all queries are information related. So that's quite promising. But at the same time, people aren't using them that much for news. And some research by Nick Newman with the Reuters Institute has kind of tried to get at that why. Why aren't people using them for news more? And some of the potential reasons are that people just aren't aware of the options for news, but also that it's just still easier to get news on other devices, right? It's easier to go to your smartphone or to turn on your radio, your traditional radio. But that opens up an opportunity for us, right? So if we develop better voice content that takes into account what voice can do well, I think there's a big opportunity there. So that's really what we're going to focus on today, is more device specific, so voice first content. And so right now, news is often presented in the form of news briefs or news flashes, and often these are kind of directly ported from radio or even TV news. Like you just ask for the news and you get an audio clip, like a 5-minute audio clip, and that's not very interactive. But then in contrast, the way that people access information on voice assistants tend to be a lot more oriented around questions and answers, right? People ask short questions like, hey Alexa, what's the tallest building in Buenos Aires? Or hey Google, tell me a joke. And so this is really what we're going to consider today. So our challenge that we're going to tackle together is really, how do we design news experiences for voice that take into account the unique capabilities of this technology, and that also take into account the specific needs people have when they're using voice technology. So that's our focus, and that's what all of our design activities are going to be oriented toward. So let's get into it. Let's jump in. So the first activity that we're going to do is I'd like to facilitate you through a guided visualization, which is a little bit like a meditation, which I know is kind of weird, but bear with me, and this is going to get us into the mindset to do some design. So if you feel comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. And I know with Zoom that can be a little awkward, so you can turn off your video so that you're not sitting there with your eyes closed and your video on. And what I'd like you to do is start by thinking about a news story that you care about right now. So this can be a single event or an ongoing story, or it can be kind of the latest thing that you were invested in. So for me, I'm going to pick the wildfires that are happening in the Western US, in the communities where I grew up in, because that's really important to me. So whatever it is, just make sure you have a specific story in mind, and you don't need to know every detail of the story. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to settle in on a story, a news story. So now that you have that news story in mind, I'd like you to imagine that it's a few years in the future, maybe 5 years in the future, and you have a voice assistant that's a lot smarter and better than the one you have now, or the one you might have interacted with is like. And so maybe it knows a lot more about you and about your history and preferences, while still also protecting your privacy, hopefully. And it can do a lot more than a current voice assistant can do. It's your sort of ideal, perfect voice assistant. And I'd like you to, in your mind, imagine asking your voice assistant about this news story. So spend some time picturing the experience. Try to imagine the scene, the details. So maybe, where are you? Who are you with? What are you doing? So spend a few seconds just picturing the scene. Okay, so now I'd like you to imagine having an interaction with your voice assistant about this news story. So maybe you ask it some questions, maybe you have a conversation with it and it incorporates updates or details about how the story might impact you. And I'd like you to really picture how the interaction plays out. So you can think about, what, if anything, do you say? What does the voice assistant say? Is there a back and forth exchange? How long does the interaction last? And if it were to continue for a long time, what might happen? So just think about that for the next 20 to 30 seconds or so. Okay, so Now you can open your eyes and welcome back. So I hope you found this experience helpful, if not a little bit weird. And you're going to have a chance now to discuss this in your small groups and share what you imagined during this exercise. So I'm going to send you back to the breakout rooms, and you're just going to share maybe 1 or 2 sentences what you pictured during the visualization exercise. And if you'd like, you can also follow along on the slides. I believe it's slide 2 for you. There's a spot where you can fill in. If it's better for you to type out what happened, you can do that as well. Okay, so can we send people to the breakout rooms? And I'm not sure if they'll be in the same groups or in new groups. This will be, we'll find out.
I had to change some of the groups to have the same amount of people inside of them.
Well, this will be an opportunity to meet even more people and share with even more people. So, so yeah, let's send people to breakout rooms, and I'll see you in a couple minutes.
Okay.
I think we can bring people back.
Sorry. Okay.
You can put 1 minute.
Yeah, I was mute. So it's the countdown is coming. And so people trust is coming back. Remember that you need to share your screen again for the presentation.
Yes. Thank you for that reminder. Okay.
5 seconds.
Okay, I'm starting to see people coming back. Okay, welcome back. So if you feel comfortable, you can also share what you imagined during that exercise in the chat, if you would like to do so. So hopefully now we're in this kind of design mindset where we're not letting ourselves necessarily be constrained by what our current voice assistants can do or what they can't do. So I'm really just trying to open it up so that we imagine what's possible rather than limiting ourselves to the way things are right now. So the next activities we're going to do are going to build ourselves kind of an inspiration deck that has a bunch of ideas that we can sort of shuffle and draw from to design voice experiences. So this is motivated by the Fluxus art movement in the 1960s, and also artists like Brian Eno have famously used randomness to help spark the creative process. So we're going to do a little bit of that. So if you're following along in your slide deck, this should be on slide 4 of your template, or activity 2A, the one with a bunch of green little digital sticky notes. So on these sticky notes, I'd like you to write down as many different story topics or ideas as you can that's relevant to your workflow. And because we're brainstorming, the idea is quantity over quality. So just try to fill out as many as you can. And if you've run out, you can copy and paste to make more. So I'll give you a couple minutes to do that, and we'll do it just right here in the main room. I'm not going to send you into the breakout rooms. We'll do it kind of together. So take 2 minutes to work on that. As many story ideas as you can.
Jordan, just in case, can you paste again the link to because it seems that the chat delete everything once we left the room.
Hold on 1 second. So here's the slides. And you can also just write it down on a piece of paper if you can't access the slides. So let's take maybe another minute. Keep jotting down those ideas. Really challenge yourself to maybe at least get to 5, if not 10. Okay, cool. So we're now going to move on to the next one, which is slide 5, or activity 2A, where now we have the purple stickies, and we're going to write down as many places where someone might be using voice technology. So try to be as specific as possible. So instead of saying at home, say like maybe, oh, in the kitchen or in the laundry room, or on the bus, on the way to work. Yeah, so just try to come up, same thing, as many as you can in 2 minutes. Challenge yourself to get to 5 or even 10 places where someone might be using a voice assistant. So I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. Okay, so we're going to take 30 more seconds, and let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow in the chat, because it's really hard for me to tell over Zoom. Okay. So now that we have our places, we're going to move on. In a similar theme, we're going to think about how many activities we can come up with. So we're now on slide 6, which is activity 2C. And this is what activities people are doing while using a voice assistant. So maybe they're walking the dog, running on a treadmill, cooking dinner, So just try to think of as many actions that a person might be doing. So again, take a couple minutes to do that, as many ideas as you can. Here, I'll do it at the same time so that I can know kind of how long it's taking. Okay, let's wrap up our activities. And we are rolling right along. Our next one, we are now on slide 7, activity 2D. These are the orange stickies. You're gonna come up with as many goals or needs that someone may have. So kind of what is motivating them as they're using this voice assistant? So maybe they want to be entertained. Maybe they want to be informed. Maybe they want their kids to be distracted so that they can focus on work. This is really the why someone is using a voice assistant. So try to come up with as many as you can in a couple of minutes. All right, take about 20 more seconds. This one's a little bit harder, so I think we need a little more time. Okay, so we're on to our last one. You guys are doing great, home stretch. So we're now on slide 8, activity 2E with the blue stickies. And on this one, you're gonna brainstorm as many formats for content as you can, formats for interaction. So this one's a little bit trickier. So I'll give you some examples. So maybe it's a trivia game. Maybe it's a question and answer format. Maybe it's an interactive recipe. Maybe it's a newscast or a podcast. Maybe it's some kind of game. So yeah, this one's a little bit trickier, so I'll give you a little bit more time, but just try to think of alternate formats that go beyond just the standard way of interacting with a voice assistant. Because this one's tough, I'm going to put some more examples in the chat. Okay. So nice work, everyone. So now I'm going to send you into the breakout room so that you can discuss with other folks what types of ideas you came up with. So in your breakout rooms, feel free to share your screen if you feel comfortable doing that and actually show your work, or you can hold up your notes like I made on paper and just kind of share some of your ideas. To just see how what you came up with might be very different from what other people came up with. So let's head to the breakout rooms, and I'll see you in a few minutes.
How many minutes do you want?
For this one, let's take 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you stay here, so.
Okay.
I think we have everyone. So I pull down the button so they have 1 minute to come back. It's okay?
Perfect.
.30 seconds to come back.
Okay. I think I'm starting to see people come back now. Okay, cool. So, all right. So now the next step is to put these all together. We're gonna shuffle your inspiration deck, and we're gonna pick one of each item and put them together to come up with a single design idea. So what you're gonna do is we're gonna move on to slide 9 or activity 3, and you're gonna pick one story topic, one place, one activity, one goal or need, and one format, and put those all together into one idea. So I gave you kind of an example here. So you might be considering local elections, and someone is in the kitchen and they're preparing lunch, and their goal is to help their kids get engaged with current events, and the format is a trivia game. So that's kind of like one single design idea that you could actually start to build and to design for. So yeah, go ahead and pick one from each of your categories. And then once you have your design idea, what I'd like you to do is put it in the format of a user point of view statement, which just helps you kind of like understand the mind of the person who's using this. And so there's this format down at the bottom here. So a user needs to do something. because of some surprising insight. So the parts in the brackets, that's where you can fill in. So my example is a busy parent needs to engage their kids while preparing lunch because they want to take advantage of in-between times as learning moments. So spend a couple minutes to put your single design idea together and to write that point of view statement. And let me know if you have any questions about this as you're doing it. Okay, so I think what we're going to do with this one is instead of sending you to breakout rooms, if anyone feels comfortable pasting their idea into the chat or their point of view statements, please do so. I think it might be fun to kind of share in a bigger group what you're coming up with. So do we have any brave people?
Or if someone wants to talk, we can open the mic for that specific thing. They can raise their hand in the Zoom app, and we can make that.
Yeah, if anyone wants to raise their hand too. I know it's putting someone on the spot. Interesting. So Anto shared that if a traveler needs to find water while walking in the forest and doesn't have any signal and might need a podcast or audio. So what I like about this is it's highly specific and it's like resource oriented, right? It's very like functional. This is very much to like accomplishing a goal. Do we have any others? Any other brave people want to share their ideas?
I think the main thing about voice these things is that you're in the move. You can't use your hands, so maybe speak a better route for when you're in the car or on your bike, or maybe you think about something and you don't want to forget or wait till you get there so you can write and search with your hands. So maybe it's and while cooking, when you can't use your hands, and I can't see the goal. I wrote. This is like the most usual for me is having facts in the middle of a conversation with another person, like,
I love it. So you're talking with another person and you don't remember a fact, and so you want to pull up that fact quickly in the moment. Awesome. So these are great. So thank you for our brave volunteers for sharing. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually build out the details of what this interaction, how it would unfold, how this we're going to like write this interaction as if it's actually happening. So on slide 10, you'll see a bunch of different interaction cards. So these are for different types of interactions. So for example, a voice assistant might say something. The person might say something. Maybe a sound plays, like a musical tone or an audio clip. And then I've also got a wild card for maybe some other interaction happens. Like maybe it emails a link to a friend, or maybe it adds something to your calendar or some other interaction. So what you can do is those cards are actually stacked. So if you start to drag them and move them around, there should be more of them. And I'm actually going to switch my screen so that you can see. I'll do kind of a example. So if I switch over, okay. So hopefully now you're seeing me in the slide view. So if I move over here, right, the voice assistant says, or person says, so like going back to our previous example, right? So like our person might say, you know, tell me about the candidates running for mayor or something. I don't know. I'm just making this up. And the voice assistant might say, sure, the first candidate is, and then maybe a sound plays, right? So to help you keep track, and it's a clip of the candidate at a speech, right? So you can start to build out the interactions using those cards. So take a minute and actually like make a map of this interaction that you're thinking of, and really like kind of just try to sketch out what will happen and how you'll go from one action to the next. So take a couple minutes to do that. And I'm here to answer questions if any of that's confusing as you do this. So what you're doing now is that you're actually making kind of a prototype of this interaction. And you're really getting into the specific details of who says what and how it flows from one item to the next. All right, I would also like to mention that we've been going for almost an hour, so if you do need to take a break, now is a great time to take a quick break and then come back and join us. If you don't need a break, you can keep working on your interaction map, and I'll give you a few minutes, so you know, three more minutes or so to do that. All right, let's take one more minute. Got my clock going here. Okay, let's come back together. So how was that? What did you come up with? Hopefully you have kind of at least now a basic workflow of a voice interaction. And you have now, congratulations, created a low fidelity prototype. This is kind of a paper prototype for voice that you can now use to start to actually build a higher fidelity prototype of this interaction. So that's what we're going to do for the last half hour that we have, is we're going to talk about how you might actually prototype these experiences so that you can actually try them out with people and improve them. Because trying them out with real people is super, super important with voice experiences. Okay, so here's some of the ways that you might actually prototype a voice experience. So one way that you might do it is by role-playing, actually acting out the experience as if you were a voice assistant. So the way you would do this is two people get together. So find a colleague or a friend. One person plays the voice assistant, one person plays the role of a person, and you actually just role play the interaction. So just play it out as if it would happen. It can be a little bit awkward. So some ways to make it a little bit less awkward is if you're doing it over video chat, turn off your screen so that you're not staring at the other person, or if you're in person, you can sit back to back so that you're not staring at each other. And this can be a nice way to kind of see where the conversation goes and if a person would actually ask things that you never expected them to do. Another thing that you can do is instead of using the cards like I showed you, you can actually just write a script for the interaction the way you would write a script for a video or a podcast. And if you're writing a script, one way to do it is to start with sort of the ideal scenario, the perfect scenario where everything goes according to plan. So what would you hope that a good conversation would be like? Once you've done that, it's really important to then try to break that conversation. So here's an example of a script that someone wrote, the ideal version, and then they annotated it. They scribbled on top with all the things that could go wrong, all the things that someone else may say. And this helps you think about, okay, what are the alternate interactions that I'm going to have to design for? And that's really important because as we know, as people who develop technology, things never go according to plan. Another technique that you can use for prototyping is actually to make a flow chart, kind of a decision tree. And I think there's some pros and some cons to doing this. They're really nice for helping you to think through all the different paths, all the different contingencies. But as you can see, they start to get very complicated very quickly. So I think often flowcharts, it probably comes best to do that second. So writing a script first and then turn it into a flowchart, because the flowchart is really more kind of like, this is what I actually then need to build. Another technique that I have found very helpful is kind of faking an interaction in a keynote or PowerPoint presentation. So this is something where once you have your flowchart or your script, you can actually pre-record the responses from Alexa or from Google Assistant or from whatever computerized voice that you're using as sound files. And then you can play the sound files at the appropriate moment. So how this might work is I might be sitting with a person who I'm having try out my prototype. And so they respond to me, and then instead of me responding back, I just hit play for the appropriate sound clip. So this is what we refer to as kind of a Wizard of Oz prototyping style. And there's a really great blog article from Katie Briggs that tells you more about how to use this technique. Another thing you can do is once you're getting into this level of detail, you might find that like really you're just at the point where you're ready to build directly. And so I do want to point out that both the Alexa and Google Assistant platforms, they really want you to develop for their platform. So they have all kinds of tutorials and resources to help get you started, including templates that you can just tweak, like a Q&A format or like a trivia format where you can just like pop in your own content. I will say, having used both of these platforms, I find Google Assistant easier to start developing on. It just has like a more, for me, intuitive workflow, whereas Alexa is a little bit more of a barrier of entry. But that's just my personal preference. And then the last way is there are a bunch of third-party apps for designing voice experiences, and that's what I'm gonna show you today. So I put up here a couple that you might want to try also. So Adobe XP, if you have Creative Suite, they actually now have voice prototyping. I have not personally played with that one yet, but that's pretty cool. And Adobe actually bought one of the better prototyping platforms called SaySpring and then incorporated it into their product. So I have kind of high expectations for that one. VoiceFlow is the one that I'm going to be showing you in just a second. Bot Society I've used, it's also pretty easy. And then Jovo is another one. That one I haven't personally used, but that one's open source. And if you are someone who is more comfortable writing code, I think that one is probably a lot more customizable than some of the other ones. And what's nice about a lot of these is you can prototype, but then some of them you can also deploy. So with VoiceFlow, you can actually deploy directly to Alexa or to Google Assistant. Okay. So now we're going to get into the demo phase, and this is where things get a little bit scary for me because I'm going to sort of build something live for you, and we'll see how it goes, and I can show you how the process works. But first, I'm going to play a video for you of what we're trying to build. So what we're going to build today is a brief interaction with a voice assistant that presents to you data sonifications. As I mentioned earlier, those are graphs that you can listen to with your ear about coronavirus cases. So let's watch a video of the experience and then we will build it.
Welcome to listen to.
So are you able to hear? Can someone just give me a thumbs up if you can hear? Okay, you can hear. All right, so let's listen.
Welcome to Listen to Data, where you can hear sonifications of data in the news. Today, sonifications of coronavirus cases in several countries. Would you like to hear the cases for Argentina, Germany, or India? Here's a sonification of the 7-day moving average confirmed COVID-19 cases for Argentina from July through mid-September. Would you like to hear this again, hear a different country, or learn more about how to listen to the sonification? Sorry, I didn't quite get that. Would you like to hear the cases for Argentina, Germany, or India? Here's a sonification of the 7-day moving average confirmed COVID-19 cases.
Okay, so that is briefly the type of interaction that we're going to build. And the sonifications are not very good, so I'm sorry, but I just wanted to include those to show you how to add a sound clip and how to have some choices, some branching choices. So those are the things that we are going to build. So I'm going to switch over to my web browser so that you can see. Hopefully now you're seeing VoiceFlow. Just give me a quick thumbs up if you're able to see.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
We can see that.
Cool. So so this is the VoiceFlow app. I've already created an account. I'm not going to walk you through that. I trust that you are all smart and savvy people who know how to create an account. But you just go to voiceflow.com and you sign up, and then you get taken to your dashboard. And so we're going to create a new project I have a little backup here of the one that I already made in case something goes wrong. So when you create a project, you have to give it a name. So here's our media party demo, the live version. And you get to choose whether you want to make it for Alexa or for Google Assistant. So we're going to design for Alexa right now, but it's pretty much the same workflow whether you're doing either one. And one nice thing is it lets you choose the language. We're going to be designing in English, but it has a whole bunch of other languages in there for you. So we're going to create a new project. Okay, so it's going to take a second. So it starts us with this block. And the way that this tool works is that you have kind of blocks of content that you can chain together. So it works very much like a flow chart. So we're gonna, so it gave us a block that already says open media party demo. So the first thing that we wanna do is we wanna have our voice assistant speak to us, and it's gonna say like something like, hello, welcome to listen to data. You can hear sonifications. So what I did is I dragged a speak block over here. These are different types of content. And I dragged speak over here. So I can then just type in and say what it will say. So welcome to listen to data, where you can hear sonifications of numbers in the news. Okay, so, and then we can test it out, right? So we can play it.
Welcome to listen to data, where you can hear sonifications of numbers in the news.
You can try different voices. Oh, let's see. Yeah, we can give it like a British accent.
Welcome to listen to data, where you can hear sonifications of numbers in the news.
You can also add in effects, like if you want to make the speech slow down, or if you want to make the volume increase, right? So you can tweak the voice itself, and you can actually then listen to it in real time. So let's switch back to the Alexa. Okay, so that's our first block. And then we're gonna introduce a choice, right? We're gonna say like, oh, do you want to hear coronavirus cases from Argentina, Germany, or India? So I'm actually gonna make this one a little bit longer. Today I have sonifications of coronavirus cases in several countries. Okay. So now we have our sorry, this is where I said we're doing it live is a little bit weird. I'm gonna make the choice be in a separate block. Okay. So now once you have your content blocks, you link them together by just kind of clicking and dragging. So now we linked the intro into our little welcome. And then our next block is going to say, would you like to hear cases in Argentina, Germany, or India? And you can test it out. Oops.
Would you like to hear cases in Argentina, Germany, or India?
Okay, and then we have our choice block. So this one I dragged choice over here. So if you missed that, this is our choice block. Okay, put that back. So we have three choices, right? We have three paths that we want it to do. So the first one is the Argentina choice. And once we create that choice, we have this utterances thing where we can say like, oh, what would a person actually say to get Argentina? So maybe they're just gonna say Argentina, or maybe they say, play Argentina. Or maybe they say, I'd like to hear Argentina. So you can enter in kind of the different permutations that someone might actually say to get that choice. All right, and we have to add in all of our other paths, right? So we had Germany. So for Germany, they might just say Germany. They might say play Germany. They might say, I want to hear Germany. They might say Germany, please. And then we have to add in our last path, which is India. Okay, and our utterances again, India, play me India, play India. I want to hear India. Okay, so now we have each of our choices there. So the next step we're gonna do is based on which choice they make, we're going to then play the accompanying sonification. So we have to match it up with the right sonification. So I'm going to move this down here. So we're going to then create a new block, and I'm going to add a little sort of reassurance. So here is Argentina, right? And so this is so when the person asks for Argentina, they get a little bit of reassurance. Okay, it understood me correctly. Okay. So here's Argentina, and then we're going to click this audio, and then we can drop in an audio clip. So in my case, I have a little music file. You might have kind of a radio segment or a podcast or a sound clip, whatever you want. You can either upload the file or you can just add a link. So I've already in advance put these on GitHub. You can host them anywhere you want. And so I put in the link that points to my audio file, and then we can play it. And you can test it out to make sure it's playing the right sound. Okay, so we have Argentina, and then to make sure it's the right choice, we're gonna map Argentina to Argentina. You might be realizing now this is a little bit repetitive. We can actually just duplicate this block. Could it be an RSS link? I think it could. That's a great question. You can also do things like have it be within a Google spreadsheet. So you might have a Google spreadsheet that has a bunch of links to different sound files. You can do that as well. I don't have time to show you that today, but there's lots of ways to kind of automate this and make it more sophisticated. Okay, so I'm going to copy the block, and then I'm going to paste it. All right, so we don't have to do it all over again. We can just tweak it now. So right now we might want to say, here is Germany. I'm going to paste in the link for Germany. It's a different sound file. Okay, so it's a different sound file. We're going to link up Germany to Germany, and then we're going to do it one more time. Copy block. We're going to paste our block, and then this time we're going to tweak it so that we're saying here is India. Okay. For some reason, it doesn't let me edit the link once I pasted it in, which is why I'm going over here. Okay, so now we're gonna add in our link and then change it to India. Okay, it is indeed a different file, and then we link India to India. Okay, now let's try it out. So this is why I really like VoiceFlow, is you can prototype it very easily. So I'm gonna hit prototype, and it'll let me test it out, and hopefully we'll break something.
Welcome to Listen to Data, where you can hear sonifications of numbers in the news. Today I have sonifications of coronavirus cases in several countries. Would you like to hear cases in Argentina, Germany, or India?
So what happens if I type in the UK? Okay, it just broke and it didn't know what to do. So we can go back to design over here, and we have to build in a contingency plan. So it has this else option. So if someone says something other than Argentina, Germany, or India, you can tell it what to do. And there's a couple of ways to do it. You can build in your own else path. So we can build in maybe something that says, I didn't quite get that. Please pick Germany, Argentina, or India. Okay, so I didn't quite get that. Please pick either Argentina, Germany, or India. And then hopefully it will send us back to the choice. So our else goes there, and then we send else back to the original choice. Okay, so now let's try prototyping it and see what happens.
Welcome to Listen to Data, where you can hear sonifications of numbers in the news. Today I have sonifications of coronavirus cases in several countries. Would you like to hear cases in Argentina, Germany, or India? I didn't quite get that. Please pick either Argentina, Germany, or India. Would you like to hear cases in Argentina, Germany, or India?
Does anyone see what happened there? So I put please pick either Argentina, Germany, or India twice, and so that's why it read it twice. So this is why prototyping is really helpful, because it helps you like see all of these things. Okay, you say Argentina.
Here is Argentina.
Okay. All right, it's being a little bit slow. Okay, so once they've listened, we want to give them a choice of what to do next, right? So we can add another block. That says, would you like to hear a different country or learn more about how to listen to the sonification? Okay, and then we can add in another choice, right? So all of these can line up here. We can connect them. And then we could do the same thing again, right? We could create another choice that either sends them back into this loop or sends them onto a different loop. So hopefully you're starting to see a little bit how this works. And we don't have time to go into all of the nitty-gritty details, but some things that I want to point out is you can probably start to see how this could quickly get very onerous and start to get super, super complicated. So some other things that you can do within VoiceFlow is you can actually create variables. So instead of explicitly saying Argentina, Germany, India, we could create a variable called country, and we could actually have it capture the user response as a variable and then remember which country it is. So that's really nice. And then the other way to kind of start to make this much more robust is you can actually pull in data from either an API or a Google spreadsheet, and you can have it pull in values from there. So instead of hard coding all of them in, you can actually start to make it much more expandable. So that's pretty much all we have time to show you today. I do want to really quickly show you the other reason I really like VoiceFlow is that you can easily share and send this with other members of your team or other people to test. So you can easily get a testable link, and then you can send that to people. You can send that to anyone. They don't have to have a VoiceFlow account. They can just open it in their web browser. So that's one thing that I really appreciate about that. They have a ton of video tutorials on their website that I think are pretty good. So I would encourage you, if this seems like something you would like to do, like just dive in and start playing around. Okay, so I'm gonna switch back to my other slides. Okay, so thank you all for joining me. Hopefully you got some inspiration and learned some new techniques. And I just really encourage you to continue the conversation with me. So I have a link here to the full slides. So like my version of the slides that had additional information in addition to what was in the activities. And then also, if you're interested in staying in touch with me, I'm gonna be continuing this type of work in my research as a PhD student, hopefully doing more participatory work with journalists and with people who are actually working on these in their day-to-day life. So I do have a survey if you want to fill that out to stay in touch. And then also feel free, you can directly reach me on Twitter or via email. I would love to hear how you're using voice technologies in your work. If you ever need any tips or advice, I just love chatting with people and like understanding how they're using these in their day-to-day lives. So yeah, I managed to finish on time, which I'm very shocked by. So thank you all for participating with the experiment, this experiment with me. And I guess we do have a couple minutes for questions if anyone has any. I will stick around to answer questions.
There's a question there in the chat right now.
Yes, okay. So the question is, if I upload it to Alexa, all users can hear it. So there's two ways you can do it. So you can upload it privately so that it's just like a private test version. You have to give people access, or you can make it public. And to make it public, you have to go through an additional process because it does have to be approved by Alexa. So you can do it either way. You can publish it from VoiceFlow, or you can just make it as like a private version that you can test on an actual Alexa device. And it's fairly easy to do that. As you saw, there was an upload to Alexa button. And again, I would say, I don't know why, but I've had easier time uploading it to Google Assistant. For some reason, it's easier to deploy than on Alexa. But yes, you can do it both ways. You can publish, or you can just keep it as a version that only certain people can hear.
There's re-replied of the question. So what happens if I make it private? I'm the only one who can use the command I designed?
Yes, or you can share it. You can add accounts. So like you can add, who has access to it. So you can share it with other people on the team.
Do we have do we have more questions? There's a thank you there for you. And this is, it's not supposed that the facilitator make questions, but I have a question. So, when you send it to Alexa or Google Assistant, you say something about there's an approval from Alexa, but how easier is to access that once you want to publish? For example, if I made one of these conversations to have like information about the COVID, like you made right now.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. You just need to fill out, like, it needs to have a title, it needs to have certain metadata. It's not like, for example, the Apple Store where they must approve the content. So it's not at all like getting an app in the Apple Store. It's actually much, much easier. It's just basically making sure that you have a title and a description. Like yeah, so it's not the same level of vetting that you would have for the Apple Store. It's more just like basic stuff. So it's not a big hurdle, which is why if you interact with a lot of content on Alexa, you'll find things that are kind of broken or weird or don't work because there's not a lot of gatekeeping happening right now. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Yes, I will try. For sure. Not Alexa because I don't have one, but so Justin, because of the time, I want to thank you so much for your time, and the workshop was really nice and helpful for a lot of people. If you have time, and the people inside the chat have time, we have a space that is called Spatial Chat, where you can continue with this conversation. I will paste the link in the chat, and I paste the link to the survey too. So please answer the survey if you want to continue, and please take a look if it's okay. I think it's okay, the link that I paste, but if just to be sure that I made it right. So once again, thank you very much, and hope we can see you next year in Buenos Aires rather than by Zoom.
Yep, thanks everyone. I had fun. You were all great.
Bye. Thank you all.